There's a documentary on Netflix called Our Father. And I was just like the other day, like I was like, I'm just going to watch this documentary. Basically, if you guys have seen it, by the way, hashtag spoilers alert. There was a doctor that worked in the United States. And apparently this is more common than we think.
Sure.
They worked in a fertility clinic. And he was like the top renowned doctor of this fertility clinic. So some women went there and they asked for donor, to be artificially inseminated with donor sperm. And the rule, I guess, and I didn't realize this, but it makes sense. If you're using donor sperm, they only allow, like in an area, you're only allowed to use the same donor for up to three people.
Okay.
The reason being is like, for example, if I donated and then in Calgary and then they like used mine for like a bazillion people, there would be kids that would be siblings that wouldn't know it. Do you know what I mean? Like there would be a lot of issues in terms of like genetic pool diversity and everything.
Right.
So it makes sense, right? So you're like, okay, the maximum is 3. So anyway, some of these women went there and had donor sperm. Other women, though, went with their husbands and they were artificially inseminated with what they thought was their husband's sperm.
Right.
So you have two different kind of stories or two different situations.
So some women didn't have a partner, but they wanted to be pregnant.
Or they did have a partner, but they couldn't get pregnant by their partner.
Right.
So anyway, long story short, this one girl, she's like growing up and she like wants to find out more about her, who her father was and whatever else. So she contacted the hospital, the fertility clinic, asked the doctor. She actually spoke to the doctor and was like, hey, like, do you mind giving me a bit more information on who my donor was? Like, I would love to like meet him or like learn more about who he was or whatever. And he was like, oh, sorry, like that's confidential. I can't share that information, which I think is standard practice anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so she was like, forgot about it. She's like, whatever. This was like years and years and years ago. So then like maybe like 5 years ago or something, you know how there's like that big explosion of like these DNA kits that like you can test your DNA, right?
Yeah.
Ancestry or whatever. It was like an explosion.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she got one of these DNA things and she's like, oh, this is super exciting. I'm going to find out if I maybe have some like siblings because maybe maybe I have up to 3, right?
Sure.
So she's like, cool, let's do this. So she does it. And at the time gets like, I don't know, I think 7 or 8 siblings, half siblings. And she's like, what the fuck?
Oh, it tells you like how many siblings there are.
Like how many people are genetically attached to. But only people that have also done the app, right? Or done the test.
So that's like very significantly high number.
Huge.
Because the chance that all your siblings have done that is very low, if not impossible.
It gets better. It gets so much better, Rose, okay?
I think I've heard of this story though. I think that's why it wasn't as shocking when you told me because I think before that story, I've heard it.
Oh, see, I never heard of it.
So tell me more.
Continues on. So she starts meeting people. And as she's like, she has like her ancestry, like I guess it's an app or whatever.
Sure.
And like as the time is going on, she's like trying to connect with people and it's all linking to this fertility clinic. And she's like, okay, this is really weird. So then she asked him.
And they're realizing that they're all from that clinic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then she like asked him again and he was like, no. We've only used the donor, like, maximum. Maybe you have like 10 siblings or something, right? So all of a sudden, then there's like 14, 15. She's like, okay, this is getting really, really weird.
Oh my God.
So then they find out it was actually the doctor. So it was the doctor who was.
How did they find out?
I can't remember. I think through the Ancestry website, she like somehow was able to link to other members of his family. Okay. And they were able to bring it back to him. So then she confronted him and she was like the main girl and she was like, what's going on? He's like, oh, like I know that these women came here and they really wanted to have kids of their own and like blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, okay. And then he's like, the maximum siblings you'll have is like 20. And she's like, okay, fine. A little bit of time gets up to 40. And she's like, okay, what the actual fuck? And one guy, he was randomly went on there who ended up being one of her half brothers. She's like, yeah, normally when you do Ancestry, you get like, maybe 40 hits or something. He's like, I got 3,000 because it was like all the extended members of family,
right? All
the connections to all the brothers, the half siblings. So it was like crazy. And he was like, and then when he saw he had like 40 half siblings, he was like, what the actual fuck? Then it comes out, a lot of them are, they have like immune disorders and stuff because he actually wasn't really that healthy of a person, the doctor guy. Right. And then also it's like really creepy because basically the way it worked is like the woman would be there. He would go into the other room, get a sample.
Himself, yeah.
Come back and then put it inside her.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God. It's kind of like the R word.
It is. This is what the big argument
R
was.
word material.
This is what people were saying. They were like, there was not consent. There was like, I mean, they consented.
Absolutely, there's no consent.
Exactly.
Because they're consenting to a donor.
A healthy donor sperm.
Yes, and they should. They technically they kind of know the donor, even if it's a stranger. They know information, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, like they give the full details, like family history and everything. So he's going. What happened to this man? Did he go to jail? Are you joking?
So
this is definitely illegal.
Oh yeah, no, but not in the U.S. apparently. He never went to jail. Yeah, actually, he might have gone to jail for like a lesser charge, but they couldn't like pin him on, this whole situation.
How? Okay,
I can't remember. Yeah, you need to watch it. I can't remember exactly what the nuances were, but anyway, long story short, so this number keeps growing, right? Gets to like 52 siblings.
Of course.
And every time a new person came up on this app, she would like personally message them. She reached out to this one girl who was on the app, and the girl was like, didn't believe her. She's like, this is such bullshit. Like, what are you talking about? You know, this is a scam. And then the girl didn't think anything of it. And then like a week later, she saw her and a bunch of other people on like Dr. Phil or something. And she was like, holy fuck.
Oh my God.
Realizing that you're part of this, right?
Yeah.
The whole time this is going on, the number keeps going up. And keeps going up and keeps going up. And so everybody that's like part of this, it got up to
100 something?
No, while they were filming the documentary, I think it was only 94. but still 94. And it's all in the same area, right? Like it's in this like area of the US. So a lot of people were like, oh my God, they would find out like their neighbor over there was like their half brother.
Oh my
right?
God.
And it started getting really complicated because it's like they have kids that would go to school together. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It was really, really fucked up. And like, I was just like,
so he just wanted to like spread his seed.
Well, this is the other thing about this thing. And they think that there's something more dark and sinister to it. Because he was like members of this like cult kind of thing that was talking about spreading your seed. And how it's like important to like have as many children as possible and blah, 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 blah. And then on this documentary was like, this is not uncommon. Like this one person was the most prolific of everyone. But there's other cases where like doctors that worked at fertility clinics had impregnated like 10 to 15 women.
There's other cases?
Yeah. It's fucked up, guys. I remember just like watching it, and the whole time I was like gasping because they would show the count of numbers, and it just kept going up and up and up. And then also those families that thought it was like their husband's sperm.
Yeah.
And now to find out that their daughter actually isn't related at all. Like, I mean, they're still their parents.
Of course. Not that it should matter.
Yeah. But I was like, this is some fucked up shit.
That's gross.
I know. He was like giving me like these kind of exams, down there exams, everything. And she's like, I didn't even know he was my father.
Oh my. Oh God. Nothing is pure, guys.
No.
Nothing is pure.
I
do not trust fertility clinics, apparently.
Well, it's just like, it was so, I think maybe now they're better. Like this kind of, well, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Apparently it happens more than once.
Yeah, it's happened to more. There was quite a few. There was a couple others. They didn't name the doctors, but they're like, this is the most prolific case in the US, but it's not the only one.
And there's also cases of doctors like and nurses like killing patients. Obviously, these are very small percentages of people. Okay.
Yeah.
But the fact that it even happens at all is like scary.
I know. This whole situation.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh my God, like how you would feel. And the worst part is too, it's like he actually had a lot of health issues. So these were all passed on, obviously, because a lot of them had like autoimmune disorders, all kinds of stuff, because he has that. Right. And it's like, that's not fair because, you know, part of the, which, you know, fair or not, but part of the process to become a donor, like I have actually never donated, but like part of the process is you do have to be a healthy person. Like you have to be like, you can't have like too much history of like hardcore things. Like if I had a history of like cancers, like prolific cancers and stuff, they're not going to accept me as a donor, right? Like if I have an autoimmune disorder and it's rampant in my family, they're not going to accept me as a donor, right? So I think that in itself should have like some kind of case in the court of law. Like I feel like that's, even if those women did go in there wanting donor sperm, which, you know, could be the argument that like they got what they wanted. But at the end of the day, no, because when you go in with that mindset, you think that you're getting healthy, you know, and I'm not saying just because someone has healthier like genetics, that doesn't mean that those people will not get sick or have issues, but the chances are much lower, right? So it's kind of like you're violating people in several different ways and you're misleading them.
I mean, I think the health issues is like secondary, or not even secondary. The most important thing is that It's like, yeah, you don't like, this is not, you did not consent to this.
Exactly. And they were arguing as well. Like a big part of it that's disturbing is like the fact that he would get the woman set up and then he goes into the other room to, you know, provide a sample, if you will. So it has a sexual element to it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
so he would,
it definitely does.
He would come in there and he did this to like already what we're finding out there was 94 cases we know of so far. So that's 94 women. And that's 94 times. Probably each of them took a couple times to get pregnant as well.
Yeah.
So we're talking.
Ew.
You know, in an office.
Ew.
Yeah.
How do they, like, he must have done this over many years, or no?
Oh yeah, it was over a very long time.
How do they not? Like, I feel like, is there no way? I don't know. I don't know how these things work.
Me neither.
Okay.
I just know that it's very messed up, and
like,
I was
maybe
just like,
they need to DNA test each, you know, specimen.
Mm-hmm. But I think that before this case really came out, you would never think that, right? Like, you never assume because like you look at like certain professions, like a doctor, for example.
You're supposed to trust these people.
Exactly. They're in a position of power, in a position of where you trust them.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you that you just cannot blindly trust just
really
because
can't.
Exactly. Just because someone's gone to school for a really long time and they're in a position of authority or like control, that does not mean shit.
Yeah. There's cases of doctors, like, again, this is very small percentage of doctors. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of doctors, amazing, whatever. Yeah. But there's cases like, you know, like true crime cases of doctors like killing patients, you know, like drugging them, like nurses, like intentionally drugging their patients, like all this shit. Like, it can happen. That's what's scary though, because I would immediately trust a doctor always. Like 100%. I go in, I trust the doctor. Yeah. And most of the time it's completely fine. But I think it's also because
we're taught to, right? Like we're taught to respect those people in those it's like police officers. You're supposed to they're in a position of power. You're supposed to trust them.
Right.
And just assume that whoever's that police officer, they're gonna be, you know, enforcing the law.
Sure. But, and also, especially with doctors, because they're dealing with something that we don't have knowledge over. Yeah. So I think it's more so that we're going to trust them because like they have, you know, years of knowledge that we don't have. So whatever they say, of course I'm going to go with it because I don't have any other, you know, knowledge.
Exactly.
You know, so God, that's so gross.
I know, it's so disturbing.
What's wrong with people? Ugh. Honestly, on this episode of What the Fuck is Wrong with People, we should just call this goddamn podcast What the Fuck is Wrong with People.